Welcome to the SeriesPod podcast. I'm V.
And I'm Andrew. Get your favourite beverage ready and join our book club.
Welcome back, our dear listeners, to another episode of SeriesPod podcast where we talk about the In-Depth series by J.D.Robb. We're back with you with the long-awaited, the last episode of covering Glory and Death. Hallelujah.
I'm so happy. The thing that annoys me about this now is that the ending was so good, but the rest of the book was not great.
Right. But because the rest of the book wasn't very good, I feel like the ending isn't very climactic. Is that a fair point to say?
Yeah, and you piece together who the killer is, probably within
Right.
3 chapters before the end of the book. So when it comes to it, you're like, and?
And yeah, as much as I really do enjoy JD's books, this one is rough. It's a rough one to go through.
Yeah, and after such a strong start with the first one, it was just a bit,
Yeah. And I mean, it's very nice that it gets followed up by a few really strong books afterwards. I have been having trouble with the sixth one, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Thanks for the enthusiasm on the 6th book. Now I know what not to look forward to.
It's a very interesting plot-wise, but just, I don't know why, but I've had a rough time reading through it. But it's been a while, maybe I'll look at it again and it'll be great.
Yeah.
Who knows?
You can just speed through it.
So, this episode we're going to be covering chapter 16 all the way through 20 and finishing this book with a party. So, let's grab our wonderful beverages and take a sip.
Indeed.
A sip. ASMR, here we go. And here we go.
Oh, this tea's actually real good.
Okay, take another sip.
If
If it's real good. We're gonna breeze through the summary. So, what happens is,
So basically, we find that in Rourke are on holiday. They have that. Then they go back and they realize that some suspects are not correct, which causes personal and business problems with Rourke. We meet the new chief inspector, who sounds like a horrifically terrifying man.
but also a really cool one. I feel like he's a cool boss.
Indeed, yeah, he seems very chill. We start to piece together who the murderer is. It's kind of made obvious. And then Nadine goes missing.
Yes.
And Eve has a cocktail party and an opera, but she doesn't turn up to the opera.
Chapter 16 starts with our wonderful lovebirds having a nice, relaxing night. They talk.
I mean, I don't think the talk was super nice because they did get onto some very touchy subjects.
Yeah, so Rory does bring up Eve's nightmares, right?
Yeah. But equally, she throws them back at him.
Yeah. True. Eve at this point is still on the fence of going to Dr. Myra to work on her memory loss. But I feel like she poses a really good question. She asks Rourke if he thinks that the type of behavior that their parents had, whether or not it gets passed on to by almost like DNA. He says no.
Well, he says no because he's the opposite of his father, from what it sounded like anyway.
Right, so he has worked really hard to be as far away as from his father as possible.
I think part of it probably does,
Yeah, it's hard not to take on some traits that your parents put into you.
Yeah. I would say that's more like nurture rather than nature. So not necessarily DNA, but maybe how you're brought up.
Yeah, exactly. But I think with these two, it is pretty clear that they have been so revolted by their parents' behavior that they've been working on themselves for their whole lives, trying to be the exact opposite.
Yeah, I agree.
We get into a lot of Eve guilt tripping about Louise, and she does voice that to Rourke. And he makes, I think, a very interesting point about her being arrogant. Like, he brings it down, like, listen,
Do you say?
it was almost like the world doesn't revolve around you. Take a chill pill.
Yeah, she needs some time off.
She does really need some time off. She has been for a whole book. And then they have a lot of sex.
Yeah, and then afterwards, Rourke realizes the entire thing was recorded on the security camera.
Oh, yes!
He tries to delete the footage, and Eve snatches it out of his hand and wants to watch it back.
Yeah!
And it was the only time that we've ever seen him lose his composure and get quite
He
embarrassed.
was embarrassed by it. He's like, I beg your pardon. Watch it.
I thought she was joking at first, and then guess not.
Well, I think even she thought she was joking at first, and then it was like,
Yeah.
this is getting a
Oh,
really
he
interesting
doesn't.
reaction
Yeah.
out of him. We also read about how police standard training goes when you get on the topic of drugs.
Yeah.
This was a very interesting point. So, when the police trains how to deal with people that are on specific type of drugs, because we have had that different drugs make people act different.
Yeah.
So it's not just high, it's either euphoric and fun or just batshit crazy. So in order to understand, I guess, what they're going up against, the police makes them take all the drugs.
Yeah.
How bizarre is that?
I mean, it makes sense, but also that's a slippery slope. What if one of them starts to like it?
Exactly. It was very strange to read that. And I guess, the night ends and Eve goes back to work at 9 a.m. And Feeny makes fun of her.
She's feeling herself that day. She walks in all happy. Feeny's like, someone got some.
Someone got lucky.
And then he's like, I have some bad news for you. And that was that the knife comes back with no evidence pointing towards Angelini. I think that's how you say his name. Basically, the knife was a centimeter too thick.
That, and also the blood was David's. So the blood that they found on the knife wasn't the victim's.
Yeah.
So she decides to go down her route to work Marco, because she's convinced that he's covering for his son because he knows something.
Yeah.
Which, once again, I understand him wanting to protect his son, but first that means that he thinks that his son done it.
Which I think, if your son didn't do it, that's quite insulting.
Which then, sort of implies that David is capable of something as insane as this in the eyes of his father.
Yeah.
I guess he's protecting his son because he hasn't had the chance to talk to his son whether or not he actually did it. But
they share the same lawyer though.
Oh, then I don't understand. Like, all he's doing is...
Maybe that was just something that was missed in the book.
Maybe. But all he's doing is messing up with the whole process of finding the right killer.
Yeah.
In order to release his son. Dumbass.
Silly bitch.
Oh, so silly. Marco, of course, doesn't budge. Figures. So we go visit Dr. Myra. Dr. Myra says that he's more likely to run away from trouble rather than confront it. Speaking of David.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then we have a very fun moment where Eve opens up to Dr. Myra and asks her if it's okay that she stole Rourke's shirt.
And wore it to work. Yeah, and I was like, so she really doesn't know how to be in a relationship. Like, that is it. She has obviously never had one.
Yeah, no idea. And we do know that from previous, I think even in a previous book. But, I mean, going to work in a shirt is a bit too much. Did she go into work with it?
Yeah, she went into work wearing it. And I thought, like, it's cute, but also obviously not your shirt.
You just sleep in it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
There you go. Listeners, let us know.
Yeah. Margaret, if you're listening.
Shout out. And then midway through the talk with Mira, they get a call by Feeny saying turn on channel 75. And there is our favorite character, CJ Morse, talking shit. But he knows all the details of the investigation. He knows that David was wrongly accused. He knows that Marco admitted to it.
Yeah, because he's talking to Marina. He's interviewing Marina, who is Marco's daughter, David's sister.
Mm.
which is how he knows everything.
But he didn't know about the knife, and the knife results only came in today. Because he mentioned in the book, he was like, the evidence wasn't like correct. The knife wasn't the murder weapon.
Oh, so there's a leak, there's a rat somewhere.
I don't know if that ever actually got sorted. Interesting.
Okay, let's put a pin into that. That is very interesting. Let's see how it goes.
We'll leave it there.
But that's how chapter 16 finishes. Nothing more substantial happens. And we move on to chapter 17, where we meet the new chief of police. How exciting.
Harrison Tibble, 6'6" man, pure muscle. You know, he sounds like I wouldn't want to meet him.
A mountain of a man.
Yeah. If you think of like Dwayne the Rock Johnson, he gives me vibes of that.
Yeah, but like older. Even our Eve was a little afraid.
And anyway, he was questioning Eve, Whitney, and Phoebe. So he gives no fucks. He's like, oh, he's questioning all of you.
Exactly. And he does start basically with, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
We get down to Chief telling them to release David and put surveillance on him and tells Eve to dig deeper.
Yeah.
I like Harrison. I think he's a good boss for them.
He seems fair.
Yeah.
And then Eve goes and retraces the steps of Cecily's house, whatever her name is.
She has to start from the beginning, and so she decides to go to Five Moons, where the whole scene happened. So we walk around 2 blocks from the murder scene and run into a funky junkie.
Or a funky junkie works. Yes. That's what it said in the book, yes.
Yeah, I think that's why I have it in my notes. A funky junkie. What we get from the junkie is that basically some dude in a shiny car was involved and he had the umbrella. So the shiny car kind of fits David, but no umbrella was found. So she decides to go to channel 75 again because Nadine was ignoring her and takes Rourke with her to scare people. She's fully embracing it and
I like that, yeah. And you know what? He knew exactly what to do when it came up. So they were walking in, reporters come and pound her, and he says just loud enough for them to hear, like, if I do buy this place, there's going to be a lot of staff cuts, and everyone just like disperses.
Yes.
I think that was genius.
Disappeared. We also get some info on Mavis's singing that we have been questioning throughout the whole series.
We did, and it is trash.
Yeah.
He said you can't call that singing, so it's trash. Like, I like her, but nah.
What they did was they made a deal. So Rourke wants to go to the opera, and Eve doesn't. So Rourke makes a deal that he sits through 2 sets of singing and she goes with him. Strongly implied that Mavis' singing is not for the lighthearted.
Yeah.
And she then asks him if he can be her personal trophy, which is exciting.
Yeah, I think he likes that, yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. We find out a very key moment that Nadine didn't come into work. And Moore said she called in saying that she's taking some time off, being upset about Louise.
You think like that's normal, but why is CJ Moore saying this?
Yeah, but Eve trusting her gut, she has to find Nadine. She knows she has to find her because something is not right here.
Anyway, Eve is annoyed because Nadine is still obviously a target by the murderer, so she needs to find her.
We gotta find Nadine.
And that is how chapter 17 ends. Chapter 18, Eve turns up at Nadine's flat. She doesn't want to break and enter. Her morals are questionable, but she doesn't. Rourke, however, gets out a fucking pocket knife and breaks in.
Yeah, like a pro in like seconds.
Yeah, he just giggles at Eve like, ha, your morals are funny.
Yeah, and she's muttering at him, she's like, Jesus Christ, Rourke, this is gonna get you like 6 months of house arrest.
She's counting the charges.
And then he also says, oh, I'm a bit out of practice. And then he does it in like a second. And then she's like, out of practice, my ass.
Oh, that was perfect. So nothing really happens in the apartment. There's no signs of her. Like, she has so much clothes that you wouldn't notice if she took a bag and went on holiday. But then in the car, she calls Louise's mum, I think, to ask about the funeral.
So I think even before that, she does go through her communication, transmission.
Oh, yeah.
So there was just some messages playing back with Nadine flirting with some guy. Other calls were just work or a call for restaurant delivery. But then there's no call that Morse was talking about. So Morse said that she called in, but there is nothing there.
Yeah, there's no call of her saying she's taking time off. But then Rourke said like it could be made from the vehicle. So I
Right.
assume like vehicles have their own.
Yeah, so then she does call. I suppose it would be her mother, right?
I thought so as well, yeah.
And they talk about the case a bit and about the funeral. Eve asks Miss Kresge if Nadine was there.
But she never turned up.
And then the answer starts to worry her even more because she said, we were expecting her, but she never turned up. Eve is very worried now.
And then Eve starts to realize something about what CJ Morse just said to her. That he mentioned eyes. So she called up Peabody.
Peabody! Yay!
Our favorite, not detective yet. I don't know. I haven't read that far, so I don't know if she becomes detective.
No, she's an officer.
So our favorite officer, Peabody, and asks if the hood was touched over Louise's eyes.
Yeah, if anyone touched the body at all.
Yeah, because like when the throat was slashed, hood went over her face, so you wouldn't be able to see her eyes, you'd just see her throat.
When Eve arrived, she had to pull the hood up to see there wasn't Nadine, there was Louise.
Yeah, so she asked Peabody, has anyone touched it? Peabody said, no ma'am, or no sir even. And then she realizes that, Morse saw the eyes. He said this to me twice now.
Dun dun dun.
Dum dum dum. So you can't really, like, this is where you kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
It was very
I mean,
anticlimactic.
this is where we do, I guess, have a very strong suspicion that Morse is the one who has been killing everyone.
To be fair, I think, like, when I read this book for the first time, I kind of thought it was already him. He was just so weird, I think. Suspicious.
Yeah, he was such an ass that you're like, it has to be you. It has to be.
Yeah.
But that is the problem. You figure out that it's Morse very flipping soon into the book. Like, you have a feeling everything points to him even though you don't have any evidence.
Yeah.
But then, because I guess J.D.Robb figured out that it's too obvious, she gave us a curveball by making him act out and throw up, which is not, in my opinion, is not a normal reaction to the person who has been killing people. Like, it's not the first time you've done it. Why are you having such a reaction? Okay, it might be because it was the wrong person, but that's a very slim excuse.
Did they ever find the vomit?
When Eve arrived, I'm guessing it was Peabody, like an officer came up to her, or before Peabody, an officer came up to her explaining the situation. He said that Morse was the first one on the scene, and he like threw up over there in the bushes or something.
Okay, then yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, so she gives you a curveball by outright lying to the reader that it's not CJ Morse. So then the rest of the book, you're like, oh, well, but who is it then? Who is it?
Then yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's like, well, I guess, but it's weird. And then you get to this chapter, and you're like, oh, fucking Morse.
Yeah, and in the back of your mind, it's still like it has to be him. So when like David and Marco come in, you're just like, I still don't believe it. And that is pretty much how chapter 18 ends. Chapter 19, she goes back to try and find CJ Morse, but seems to not be there. She's worried about Nadine. She had this whole story in her head how if she was going to see him, she was going to play like she was worried, see how he reacted, but she couldn't find him. She starts talking around, speaks to another colleague of his who mentioned that he actually cut Nadine from her job. Like, he removed her from the position she was in because he wanted it. And everyone hates him in the office except for the people at the top because obviously he's making them money.
Find out that he's acting very suspiciously.
Oh, yeah.
Within his workplace. So his computer has all this crazy security. All of his material, he whispers into the microphone to record.
Yeah.
Just like this.
He's a paranoid man. He thinks people are going to be out to steal his secrets.
Yeah, so everyone just thought that he's a bit crazy.
And then, yeah, she leaves, she goes to his apartment. Peabody being, strict by the rules kind of person, and Eve knows that. She's like, can you just go check if the emergency exit down the hall is open? And Peabody's a bit confused. She's like, why? And Eve's just like, it's an auto, go do it. While her back's turned, Eve takes a page out of Rourke's book and breaks into CJ Morse's apartment. Peabody comes back, knows what happened, plays along with it like, oh no, the door is unlocked, could be a break-in, let's start recording.
Let's
So then they
investigate.
follow procedure.
Yeah, Peabody is smart. I mean, she knows exactly what just happened. She's not naive about it.
But it's nice that Eve didn't implicate her in anything bad.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So they get into the apartment. They look around. There's not much, but then Peabody, she notices a secret compartment in a sofa because her dad used to do the same thing. He used to build furniture with stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, they open the drawer. Inside, they find the shoes and the umbrella. So dum dum dum, CJ Morse is the killer.
Definitely.
Big shock.
But now we have to find him. And we also don't know where Nadine is.
Yeah. So she talks to Feeney. Feeney says that he's going to put I don't know what they call it, like a net around the city. So you can't really move without people.
Yeah, so he can't. Yeah. So if Morse decide to leave the city, they would know.
So he ordered her to go and enjoy the cocktail party, which she agreed to as well.
She promised.
Yep. She turns up, gets showered, talks to Rourke about the case, says that she figured it out. It's CJ, and he's like, "Woo, congratulations!" And she's like, "Yeah, but he's still at large," which is not great. And yeah, then that is chapter 19. Really, not much.
Look at us speeding through this.
Trying to get this book over and fucking done with. And then, so chapter 20, she goes down. She enjoys the food. She talks to Harrison, which is fun. I think she's surprised to see the chief though. It seems like the chief of police are always involved in private things that they don't seem like they're the same class as. I know that's very horrible to say, but I think the chief inspector is probably paid a lot less than the people Rourke is having at this dinner party.
But I guess because of how much influence this man has, he would probably be in the same social circle.
Oh, okay, yeah, good point. Influence, I guess, could be.
So I'm not sure about his paycheck because all we know about the financials of the previous chief officer obviously they've been stealing money a lot of.
Yeah, so I suppose it's influence is currency at that point.
Yeah, and Mavis is there.
Yeah. Oh, it's cute, but it's very short bit. And then she asks if she can sing, and after his comment earlier, I was like, oh dear.
Oh no.
Do it.
Oh no.
And then she sees Marco.
Yeah.
Harrison's like, you don't need to do this. And Eve, being good, she was like, no, I do. I need to go apologize. So she goes up. She's like, I'm sorry. She said it in such a weird way. She said, where is it? I regret the difficulties I caused you and your family during the investigation. That is such a cold apology. No wonder he didn't react well.
I mean,
just fucking apologize. Just be like, I am sorry.
But she was doing her job. I mean, I agree with you personally, but...
Yeah, no, I see from your point too. She was just doing her job. Because she does say, she could have backed up her reasons.
Yeah. She had a solid reason to do that.
Anyway, he starts digging. Yeah, he starts digging at her, just outright being rude. And then Rourke comes up behind, says Marco, and then it kind of ends up being that Marco says, I'm going to end my business with you, and Rourke's like, okay.
That's fine.
Bye. I don't care.
I'll show you out.
I am the richest man on the planet and in the other planets.
My goodness.
Rourke says no one has a right to talk to you in your own home that way. And Eve's like, well, Somerset does. Always thinking it's Somerset.
And then, okay, I am very interested about the whole Rourke and Somerset
Yeah.
dynamic, because Rourke then says that he smiles, kisses her, and says the exception for reasons too complicated to explain.
That made me so curious. I want to know.
That is such a delicious little thing
Ah.
that you're just like, oh yes, what is it? What happened?
And then she goes for a walk to cool down. On the way, she ends up at the library, and Somerset pops out of the shadows, as you do, says, "You've got a call." And she's like, "Who is it?" And Somerset, being someone with a stick up his ass, said, "They did not give me their name," looking down his nose like, "I can't see you, calm down." Anyway, she gets into the library, and it's C.J. Morse, that little piece of shit. And he's like, "I bet you're surprised to see me." Like, kinda, yeah.
On the screen, he points to Nadine's face.
Tied up with a knife against her neck. He's a bad boy.
Bad boy.
And CJ says, "You've tracked me by now. I'm
Yeah,
in a park."
in the middle of a park.
The most obvious place someone would...
Who does that?
I don't know. And then it's weirder when you get there. That's the bit that threw me. So anyway, he's like, "You have 6 minutes to get here." I'm like, wait, 6 minutes is not a very long time.
Yeah, 6 minutes. But I guess because they have faster cars and Rourke probably has like a super fast car.
Yeah.
It's still a very short amount of time.
But anyway, she has enough time to grab a gun. She runs, disappears without a trace, and then arrives at this park. And this is the bit that gets me. Where he was standing is fucking lit up like a Christmas tree. There are lights, there are cameras. I'm like, who didn't notice this? Who is this dumb?
Yeah, what's up with Finney's net? Does it not work on suspicious occurrences just when you try to leave a city?
There is a woman tied up. Oh, it drove me nuts. I was so mad when I read it. I was like, someone walking past would have seen this.
Right?
Anyone would have seen this. A fucking plane would have seen it.
I suppose it is nighttime and no one is at the park. But still, it was just so bizarre. I mean, it fits with the CJ Moore's whole thing of being famous on the TV.
Yeah.
Like, that's his thing.
But now he's like live streaming an execution. So
Right. So back at the house, Rourke is like, well, she's been gone for far too long. Where is she? He goes to Somerset and he says that she's gone. And he's like, what do you mean gone? Gone where? And then he's like, I couldn't say. I feel like Somerset sounds like Snape. Do you know what I mean? I couldn't
honestly,
say. She simply
yeah.
ran out of the house.
She left.
So then we get a very interesting interaction between Somerset and Rourke, where Rourke does sharpen his voice and say, "Don't fuck with me, Somerset.
Yeah.
Where did she leave?" So Somerset explains what happened.
Rourke plays the thing back. He realizes that it's CJ and then runs. Or flies. I don't really know how he got there or gets there.
I don't know either, but he does relay the information to Chief Tibble as well.
Yeah.
So that Chief also knows what's happening. And then he gets his stuff together and goes to save Eve. We jump cut. I feel like it's a jump cut. Back to Eve questioning Morse, right?
Yeah. CJ's teasing Nadine with this knife. Eve's like, she's drugged up. She can't fight back. I thought you liked the challenge. Come and fight me. So anyway, when CJ's like, ooh, maybe, Eve like faints to the side, pulls out a gun, and says, "Don't blink." CJ is shocks like this, blinking several times, confused where this gun came from. And we later find out that she used like adhesive tape to stick a gun to her back.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what kind of adhesive tape they have in 2053, but in current times, sellotape would not be doing that. It would not.
Yeah,
hold.
no, that's some hardcore double tape.
Yeah, so anyway, she like basically hits him out the way and then pushes Nadine because he starts to bolt into the trees, into the darkness.
Yeah.
She pushes Nadine like down the path, like, go get help, blah, 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 and just runs into the dark. I'm like, this is not a smart move.
Well, sooner or later someone will find her.
Yeah, well, it's more like, why are you chasing this man into the darkness? You know, because we later find out she didn't take a torch. So that was the other bit. The entire set lit up like a Christmas tree. This dumb bitch did not take a torch to a park in the middle of the night.
She was worried. She was worried about her friend.
She's a cop.
Well, she did run after Morris. Like, what would you do? Not run after him? He's running away.
I mean, if I could still see him, I would have started taking shots.
Yeah, but she can't see him, right?
Then if she can't see in the dark, she shouldn't be running into the dark. And that's exactly what I would be not doing, because I can't see shit in the dark.
Right, yeah.
So as we find out, nor could she, because she heard a scream behind her, thinking he went back after Nadine.
Yeah.
And just by turning, the knife clipped her collarbone.
Ugh.
And then he's on top of her fighting, and she sees it. She sees the knife pointed down towards her. She basically says, "It's time to die." And she said she heard a growl, or a howl even. She thought it was a wolf. And then all of a sudden, Morse was not on her anymore.
Yeah.
She regains consciousness. Well, not consciousness. She shakes her head from confusion.
Yeah, she focuses.
Grabs her gun and sees Rourke and Morse. And when you read this, you're worried about Rourke until it says his hand crushed C.J. Morse's face.
Yeah.
He's a big man. And then the knife gets plunged into the neck, and you're thinking, "Oh shit, Rourke's dead." Nope, C.J. Morse is dead, and I'm there for that.
I mean, once again, end of the book, we get a good fighting scene. It's very intense, it's very active, dramatic. When she saw Rourke get up to his feet, she realized that she was praying for that to happen, so he would be okay. So she says, "You're a goddamn mess," because he's blood soaked into his elegant dinner jacket.
Yeah.
He's all ruffled up. And he's like, "You should look at yourself." And he's like, "Do you know how rude it is to leave a party
without making your excuses?"
telling anyone?"
Yeah.
A moment of etiquette education.
Yeah, it was like they were just joking off what happened.
Yeah, and then she's like, "Oh my god, you hurt." Oh.
And he's like, "It's not my blood."
Yeah, it's fine.
They get checked by the doctors.
Yeah, he gets worried because she's all cut up and bleeding badly. Wait a second, is this when it happens?
While they're hobbling away, covered in blood, he's like, "I want you to marry me." And she's like, "Wait, so we almost just died. You look like shit. I look worse."
He's like, "Yeah, perfect timing for this."
Exactly, and that is the end of this book.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for... I don't know why I'm thanking myself, but I'm obviously fantastic in the sense that...
You're fantastic for perseverance.
It wasn't my own perseverance. It was you telling me to finish the book so we could finish the podcast. Otherwise, I would have left this book. I would have thrown it to the side. Fuck this book.
We had to. We had to finish it. It was a hell of a ride, and we're finally done with it.
Oh, thank you.
How do you feel, Andrew?
Relieved.
Do you feel like the weight of the world has released from your shoulders?
Yes. I feel like there cannot be another book like this, or we might have to skip it. Just like, this is what happens in this book. It was boring. Don't read it.
Yeah, but then where's the satisfaction of being able to say, "I've read all of the books in the series"?
I don't need that kind of satisfaction. I don't give a fuck about that. So if we were going to summarize this book, I could do it in probably, let's see, 1 minute. So starting... Okay, so there is a killer that goes around slashing women's throats. They're all like prominent profile women, and some of them it doesn't add up. We think it's part of someone's family. We think it's some people called the Angelinis, David and Marco. David initially takes the blame. No, David gets arrested, I guess. His dad takes the blame for it. It's wrong. We have this news reporter who's a right cunt. A right asshole. And then Nadine, who is Eve's friend, goes missing. Turns out C.J. Morse is the killer, kidnapped her, put a knife to her throat. Eve gets in a scuffle with him. Rourke kills him. There you go.
The end.
That was in almost a minute.
No, you're under a minute.
Yeah, so don't read the book. It's trash. I'm kidding. It's okay. It's okay. That's actually what I'd say. It's an okay book.
Yeah.
It is a solid 5 out of 10.
Yeah, it's just that when you read it after the first one, you're like, well, what?
Facts, people.
Exciting news. And we're gonna continue with the third book in the future episodes.
And also, and I'm sure everyone has noticed, we are doing other types of podcasting as well, where it's a mix of our backgrounds talking about everyday life and doing little challenges, which I quite enjoy. Like you'll find out about this purity test, or unless you've already heard it.
Yes, do check out our other episodes that we do not talk about the books, where we just have some fun. We share our personal stories and we do fun activities.
Yeah.
And we try to make ourselves laugh probably more than anything else.
True.
Thank you for joining us on another episode.
We're available on all your favorite audio platforms, including Amazon Music.
If you like this episode, give us some love by liking, rating, or sending us a message.
And telling your friends about it, in case they'll like our podcast too. Ooh.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. And once again, we will be back with you next week.
Bye.